The August heat clung to Akron like a wet wool blanket, thick enough to choke on. 16-year-old Marcus Wright stood frozen on the porch of his family's crumbling duplex, the suitcase beside him smelling of mildew and betrayal. Inside, his mother's voice sliced the screen door like rusty razor wire. "We can't afford another mouth to feed, Marcus. Your father says it's time you learn to stand on your own." The words echoed in the sudden silence, each syllable a hammer blow to the fragile structure of his world. Have you ever felt the ground shift beneath your feet, the solid foundation of family cracking apart until you're left dangling over an abyss? That's where Marcus stood, poised between childhood and abandonment, with nothing but a cheap suitcase and 27 crumpled dollars to catch him. Outside, cicadas screamed in the dying oak trees, their frantic song matching the panic fluttering in his chest. The suitcase held everything he owned. 3 threadbare T-shirts, a worn copy of Where the Red Fern Grows with its cover hanging by a thread, and the money, his life savings from bussing tables at the diner. He'd worked all summer for those bills, dreaming of buying his little brother Tyler a shiny red bike for his birthday. Now they'd buy survival. Maybe, if he was lucky. The screen door slammed shut. The sound of the lock clicking into place echoed like a gunshot in the heavy air. Marcus stared at the peeling paint on the porch swing where his mother used to sing him off-key lullabies, the cracked sidewalk where he'd taken his first wobbly bike ride. All of it suddenly foreign. Hostile. The house that had been his sanctuary now felt like a prison that had just ejected its prisoner. He picked up the suitcase, its worn handles biting into his palms. 20 pounds had never felt so heavy. Behind him, the house remained silent. No footsteps rushing to the door. No second thoughts. No whispered apologies. Just the relentless hum of cicadas and the distant wail of a freight train, carrying his family away from him forever. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover is a journey that spans 20 years of survival, sacrifice, and unthinkable request that would force Marcus to confront the very people who had thrown him away like garbage. The first night, Marcus slept behind a dumpster behind a Piggly Wiggly, the stench of rotting garbage mixing with the salt of his tears, until he couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. By dawn, hunger gnawed at him like a wild animal, its claws raking his insides. He walked the streets of Akron's industrial district, past factories that once thrived but now stood like skeletal remains of a dead economy, their broken windows like vacant eyes staring at him in judgment. At a gas station, he used his last dollar for a bottle of water and a bag of chips, eating them slowly, savoring each salty crumb like it might be his last meal. An elderly clerk named Rosa noticed his trembling hands and the way he flinched at sudden noises, the way his eyes darted around like a trapped animal's. "You running from something, me, Joe?" she asked, her voice soft but direct, her kind eyes crinkling at the corners. Marcus hesitated, his throat tight, then nodded mutely. "Family." Rosa didn't pry. Instead, she slid him a ham sandwich wrapped in wax paper, the bread still warm from the deli. "Eat, then come back at closing. I might have some boxes for you to break down. $10 cash." That night, Marcus broke down boxes in the alley behind the store, the rhythmic sound of cardboard tearing becoming a strange comfort in the chaos of his new reality. Rosa paid him in cash, plus a thermos of hot chocolate that burned his throat and warmed something deep inside him that had gone cold the moment the screen door locked. "You got somewhere to go?" she asked as he counted the crumpled bills. Marcus shook his head, unable to meet her eyes. Rosa pointed to a shed behind her small, neat house. "It's dry. Locks from the inside. No questions. Just don't make me regret it." For the first time since the suitcase hit the porch, Marcus felt a flicker of something other than despair. Hope. Fragile. Dangerous. But there, Rosa's shed became Marcus's sanctuary. 6 by 8 feet of sanctuary smelling of gasoline, garden tools, and possibility. A single bare bulb hung from the ceiling, casting long shadows that danced like ghosts on the walls. He slept on an army cot Rosa found at a garage sale, covered with threadbare blankets that smelled of mothballs and kindness. During the day, he worked odd jobs, bussing tables, washing dishes, mowing lawns, saving every penny in a coffee can hidden under the cot. At night, he studied by flashlight, Finishing high school through correspondence courses, the beam cutting to the darkness like a knife. Rosa became his anchor, feeding him meals of pozole and tamales, checking his homework, never asking about his family, never making him feel like a charity case. "Past is past, Mijo," she'd say, stirring a pot of simmering beans on her tiny stove, the comforting smell filling her cozy kitchen. Future's what matters now. But the past clung to Marcus like the Ohio humidity, heavy and inescapable. He'd see families walking together in the park, fathers teaching sons to throw baseballs, mothers braiding daughters' hair, and the ache would hit him so hard he'd double over, gasping for air, the phantom pain of loss stealing his breath. On Thanksgiving, Rosa insisted he join her family dinner, her grandchildren flocking around him, curious about the quiet boy who lived in the shed. Marcus watched Rosa's son-in-law carve the turkey, the way he gently teased his wife, the easy love that flowed between them like warm honey. Halfway through the meal, Marcus excused himself, retreating to the shed. He pulled out the worn photo of his family he kept hidden in his wallet. Tyler grinning with a missing front tooth, his parents standing stiffly, not quite touching. He hadn't looked at it in months. Now he stared at it, tracing Tyler's face with his thumb, the paper soft from years of handling. "Where are you now?" He wondered, the question echoing in the silence. "Do you ever think of me?" Outside, Rosa's family laughed, the sound muffled by the shed walls. Marcus slid the photo back into his wallet, the ache in his chest sharper than hunger, deeper than loneliness. It was the ache of abandonment, and it would be his constant companion for years to come. Against all odds, Marcus graduated high school at 18, wearing a borrowed cap and gown that hung loosely on his thin frame. Rosa attended the ceremony, sitting proudly in the back row, crying into a handkerchief and cheering louder than anyone when his name was called. Afterward, she pressed a small box into his hands, her weathered hands trembling slightly. "For college," she said simply. Inside $500, her life savings, carefully saved over years. "You're going to make something of yourself," Marcus wrote. "I know it." Marcus worked 3 jobs that summer, saving every dime, his hands raw from dish soap and yard work, his back aching from hauling boxes. In September, he enrolled at Kent State University, studying social work. The campus felt like another planet. Students laughing between classes, professors holding office hours, the sheer normalcy of it all overwhelming. Marcus lived in the cheapest dorm, surviving on ramen and black coffee, studying until his eyes burned and the words swam on the page. He excelled, driven by a fierce determination to prove his family wrong, to show them he wasn't disposable, that he was more than the mouth they couldn't afford to feed. During winter break, when dorms closed, he stayed with Rosa, helping her around the house, listening to stories about her life in Mexico before she immigrated, about her husband who had passed away, about the children who had moved away. "Family isn't just blood, Mijo," she told him one night, stirring hot chocolate in her tiny kitchen, the rich smell filling the air. "It's who shows up, who stays." Marcus nodded, but the words echoed hollowly in the hollow places inside him. Blood had abandoned him. Rosa had stayed. The distinction was everything. At 22, Marcus graduated with honors, his name called in the crowded stadium, Rosa cheering herself hoarse in the audience. He took a job at a homeless shelter in Cleveland, using his meager salary to rent a tiny studio apartment in a rough neighborhood. The building had bullet holes in the brickwork, and the elevator smelled of urine. But it was his. No shed, no charity, just 4 walls and a lock on the door. He furnished it sparingly. A bed from Goodwill, a rickety table, a hot plate that sputtered and sparked. On the wall, he hung Rosa's graduation gift, a framed photo of the two of them on campus, Marcus in his cap and gown, Rosa beaming beside him, her arm linked through his. He threw himself into his work, counseling runaway teens, kids like him who'd been thrown away like trash. He was good at it, too good. Their stories cut too close, reopening wounds he thought had scarred over. Some nights, he'd come home and drink cheap whiskey until the world blurred, the memories of his family's rejection fading into a dull, manageable ache. Other nights, he'd lie awake, staring at the water-stained ceiling, wondering where Tyler was now. Was he in college? Did he have a family of his own? Did he ever wonder about the brother who vanished like smoke? The questions circled like vultures, and Marcus had no answers, only the hollow echo of the screen door locking, the suitcase sitting heavy on the porch, the cicadas screaming in the August heat. 10 years after Marcus moved into his first apartment, his phone rang during a staff meeting. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. A feeling, a premonition, a twist in his gut. Marcus, right? A woman's voice asked, hesitant, professional. This is Sarah Jenkins. From St. Mary's Hospital. Marcus's heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. Yes. I'm calling about your brother, Tyler Wright. He's in end-stage renal failure. We have him on dialysis, but... Sarah paused, and Marcus could hear her take a deep breath. He's not a candidate for a transplant yet. We're looking for living donors. Family members, ideally. Marcus's grip tightened on the phone, his knuckles white. Tyler? His brother's name felt foreign on his tongue, a word from another lifetime. How bad is it? Without a transplant, 6 months, maybe less. The family's been tested. No matches. Sarah's voice softened, took on a gentle tone. Tyler asked us to call you. He said you were the only one who ever really protected him. Marcus sank into his chair, the office walls spinning, the faces of the teens he counseled blurring together. Tyler, dying, and his family wanted his kidney. After 20 years of silence, the irony tasted like poison, bitter and burning. What you are about to discover may surprise you. How the most devastating betrayals can become the path to unexpected redemption, and how the family that threw you away might one day beg you for the most precious gift of all, life itself. Marcus drove to St. Mary's Hospital in a daze, the city lights blurring through his tears. The hospital gleamed under the Ohio sun, all glass and steel, smelling of antiseptic and false hope. Each step toward the renal unit felt heavier than the last, the weight of 20 years pressing down on his chest. Sarah met him in the lobby, her expression a mixture of sympathy and professionalism. He's in room 412, she said quietly, leading him down sterile corridors. He's weak. The dialysis takes a lot out of him. Marcus nodded, his throat tight. Outside Tyler's door, he hesitated, his hand hovering over the handle. What would he see? The gap-toothed kid he remembered? A stranger? Taking a deep breath, he pushed the door open. Tyler lay in the hospital bed, pale and thin, tubes snaking from his arms like lifelines. At 34, he looked 60, his skin waxy, his eyes sunken but still holding a flicker of recognition. Mark, he whispered, his voice raspy, fragile as glass. You came. Marcus stepped closer, his eyes scanning the room. Flowers and cards lined the windowsill, a desperate attempt to brighten the sterile space. His parents sat hunched in the corner, their faces etched with exhaustion and shame. His mother looked up, her eyes widening in shock. Marcus, she breathed, her voice trembling. His father stared, his expression unreadable, part relief, part regret, part fear. Tyler reached out a trembling hand, his fingers cold and frail. Marcus took it, his own hand steady despite the storm raging inside him. I'm here, Marcus said, the words feeling foreign yet necessary. I'm here. If this moment of impossible choice resonates with you, standing at the crossroads of past betrayal and present need, leave a comment below about what touched you most in Marcus's journey so far. Your stories, your reflections, they're not just words. They're the invisible threads that weave us together in this complex tapestry of human resilience. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with these raw, unfiltered stories of forgiveness and redemption, shining light on the messy, beautiful reality of family bonds that break and mend. And if you believe in the power of second chances, both given and received, please tap that like button. It's a small gesture that tells others they're not alone in their struggles. Most importantly, hit subscribe, because every new voice that joins this community helps amplify the whispers of courage into a roar that can't be ignored. Together, we're building a sanctuary where truth isn't just spoken, it's felt deep in the bones. Marcus's mother stood, her movements hesitant. We didn't think you'd come, she said, her voice thick with unshed tears. After everything, after what we did. Marcus's jaw clenched, the familiar ache of betrayal flaring hot and bright. "You're right," he said, his voice cold, controlled. "I didn't come for you. I came for Tyler." His father stepped forward, his shoulders slumped. "We know that, son. We know we don't deserve—" "Don't," Marcus cut in, his eyes flashing. "Don't talk about what you deserve. Not when Tyler's lying here fighting for his life." Tyler squeezed Marcus's hand weakly. "Please, Mark, don't fight. Not here. Not now." Marcus looked down at his brother, at the vulnerability in his eyes, the fear beneath the frailty. The anger that had sustained him for 20 years suddenly felt like a heavy coat he no longer wanted to wear. "Okay, Ty," Marcus said softly. "No fighting. Not today." The testing process became Marcus's crucible. Each morning, he arrived at St. Mary's before dawn, the hospital corridors still shadowed and silent. Blood draws, tissue typing, psychological evaluations. Each test a reminder of the irreversible choice he'd made. The phlebotomist, a young woman with kind eyes and steady hands, noticed the tension in his shoulders. "Nervous?" she asked as she prepped his arm. Marcus shook his head, staring at the ceiling tiles. "Resigned," he corrected. "There's a difference." She nodded, inserting the needle with practiced ease. "My brother needed a kidney last year," she said softly. "I wasn't a match." Watching him wait, it nearly destroyed our family. Marcus met her gaze then, seeing understanding in her eyes. "Did he get one?" "Yes." A cousin stepped forward. "But the waiting, it changes you." Marcus thought Tyler, pale and fragile, in that hospital bed. "Yeah," he murmured. "It does." The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Marcus was counseling a teenager at the shelter, a girl with haunted eyes who'd been sleeping in bus stations since her mother's boyfriend kicked her out. "Marcus, right?" Sarah's voice crackled through his phone. "It's a match. Perfect match." The world seemed to tilt. The girl reached out, steadying him. "You okay?" Marcus nodded, swallowing hard. "Yeah, just life-changing news." After the session, he drove to Rosa's, needing her steadying presence. She was pruning roses in her garden, her hands moving with practiced grace. "They found a match," he said without preamble. Rosa set down her shears, turning to face him. "And it's me." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. She pulled him into a hug, her arms strong around him. "Oh, Mijo, of course it's you. Who else would have the courage?" Surgery day dawned gray and drizzly, rain streaking the hospital windows like tears. Marcus lay in pre-op, the blue gown scratchy against his skin. His parents hovered nearby, their faces etched with a mixture of gratitude and shame. "Thank you, Marcus," his mother whispered, reaching for his hand. Marcus pulled away. "Don't thank me," he said, his voice cold. "I'm not doing this for you." His father nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. "We know," he said quietly, "but thank you anyway." The anesthesiologist entered, smiling gently. Time to count backward from 10, Marcus. Marcus closed his eyes, the numbers echoing in his mind. 10, 9, 8. He saw Rosa's face, her kind eyes, her words. Family isn't just blood. It's who shows up. 7, 6, 5. Asterisk Tyler's face, pale and sick but hopeful. 4, 3, 2. The suitcase on the porch. The locked screen door. The endless nights in the shed. 1. Darkness. Marcus woke to the rhythmic beeping of machines and the dull ache in his side. He blinked. The hospital room coming into focus. Rosa sat beside his bed, knitting quietly, her needles clicking softly. "Hey, Mijo," she said, smiling. "How do you feel?" "Like I got hit by a truck," Marcus rasped. Rosa chuckled. "You gave someone a gift, Marcus. A second chance. That's worth a little pain." Marcus shifted, wincing. "Tyler?" "Recovering well. The kidneys started working immediately. The doctors are amazed." Marcus nodded, relief washing over him. "And my parents?" Rosa's expression hardened slightly. Grateful, humble, and ashamed. Marcus looked out the window, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the room. "Good," he said quietly. A week later, Marcus was moved to a private room. Tyler, still weak but improving, wheeled himself in, stopping beside Marcus's bed. "Hey," Tyler said, his voice stronger than before. "Hey," Marcus replied. An awkward silence stretched between them, thick with 20 years of unspoken words. "I'm sorry, Mark," Tyler finally said, tears welling in his eyes. "I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you, that I didn't look for you, that I let them—" "You were a kid, Ty," Marcus said softly. "It wasn't your job to fix our family." Tyler reached out, taking Marcus's hand. "I spent 20 years feeling guilty. Every birthday, every Christmas, I wondered where you were, if you were okay." Marcus squeezed his brother's hand. "I'm here now," he said. "That's what matters." 2 weeks after the surgery, Marcus was discharged. Rosa drove him home, fussing over him like a mother hen. "You need to rest," she insisted, helping him onto the couch. "No work for at least a month." Marcus smiled weakly. "Yes, Abuela." As Rosa bustled around the kitchen, there was a knock at the door. Marcus frowned. "Who's that?" Rosa opened the door to reveal Marcus's parents, standing awkwardly in the hallway, a casserole dish in his mother's hands. We brought food," his mother stammered. "For Marcus." Rosa looked at Marcus, her expression questioning. Marcus nodded slowly. "Let them in," he said. His parents entered, setting the casserole on the counter. "How are you feeling?" his father asked, his voice gruff but concerned. "Sore," Marcus admitted, "but alive." His mother stepped forward, her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Marcus. For Tyler. For everything." Marcus looked at his parents, really looked at them. For the first time, he saw not the people who had abandoned him, but broken people who had made terrible choices. People who were hurting too. "I didn't do it for you," Marcus said quietly. "I did it for Tyler. And for me." The months that followed were a slow, careful dance of healing. Marcus recovered physically, his scar fading to a thin white line. Emotionally, the journey was more complex. His parents visited regularly, bringing food, offering hesitant apologies. Marcus listened, sometimes accepting, sometimes needing space. Tyler thrived, his health returning, his gratitude boundless. "You saved my life, Mark," he said one afternoon, as they sat in Rosa's backyard, watching her grandchildren play. "How do I ever repay that?" Marcus smiled. "You don't, Ty. Just be my brother. That's enough." Tyler nodded, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "Always," he whispered. A year after the surgery, Marcus stood in Rosa's kitchen, helping her prepare Thanksgiving dinner. The smell of roasting turkey and cinnamon filled the air. Outside, his parents and Tyler set up tables in the backyard, laughing and talking. The scene was almost surreal, the family that had shattered, piecing itself back together, fragile but whole. Rosa nudged Marcus, nodding toward the window. "Look," she said softly. Marcus looked out. His father had his arm around Tyler's shoulders, pointing at the grill, explaining something. His mother watched them, a soft smile on her face. For the first time in 20 years, Marcus didn't feel the familiar ache of abandonment. Instead, he felt something else, something like peace. After dinner, Marcus found his mother sitting alone on the back porch, watching the sunset. He sat beside her, the wooden swing creaking under their combined weight. "It's beautiful here," his mother said quietly. "Rose has a green thumb." Marcus nodded. "She does." A silence stretched between them, comfortable this time. "I never stopped loving you, Marcus," his mother whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I know I didn't show it. I know I failed you. But I never stopped." Marcus looked at his mother, really looked at her. The lines around her eyes, the gray in her hair, the regret in her gaze. "I know," he said softly, "and I forgive you." Tears streamed down his mother's face. "Thank you," she breathed, reaching for his hand. Marcus took it, the simple touch bridging 20 years of pain. Years later, Marcus stood on a stage, accepting an award for his work with homeless youth. "Family isn't just blood," he said, his voice clear and strong. "It's who shows up, who stays, who loves you even when you're unlovable." He looked out at the audience, at Rosa beaming in the front row, at Tyler and his parents sitting together, at the teens from his shelter whose lives he'd touched. I was abandoned at 16, Marcus continued, thrown away like garbage. But someone saw me. Someone stayed. And because of that, I learned to stay for others. To be the person I needed when I was 16. The audience erupted in applause, but Marcus barely heard it. He was thinking of Rosa, of Tyler, of the long, hard journey from that porch in Akron to this stage. A journey of pain and forgiveness, of loss and love. A journey that had taught him the true meaning of family. Not the family he was born into, but the family he had chosen, and the family that had finally chosen him back. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, exploring how the most profound transformations often begin with the most painful betrayals, and how the act of giving, of literally giving part of yourself, can become the bridge between who we were and who we are meant to become. If this journey of sacrifice and unexpected connection resonates with your own experiences of healing, comment here. Healing begins within. The auditorium lights dimmed as Marcus stepped away from the podium, the weight of the metal cool against his chest. Backstage, Rosa enveloped him in a hug that smelled of cinnamon and home. Tyler stood nearby, healthy and whole, his eyes shining with unshed tears. Their parent hovered at a respectful distance, their presence no longer a threat, but a quiet acknowledgement of the long road traveled. As Marcus looked at the faces surrounding him, his chosen family and the blood family that had finally found its way back, he felt the last remnants of bitterness dissolve like sugar in warm tea. The suitcase on the porch, the locked screen door, the endless nights in the shed, all of it had led to this moment. Not just forgiveness, but understanding. Not just survival, but purpose. If Marcus's journey from abandonment to redemption resonated with your own experiences of finding light in darkness, consider subscribing to this channel. Because every click helps illuminate more stories of resilience, proving that no wound is too deep to heal and no heart too broken to mend. For those who walked alongside Marcus until this final moment, leave a comment below the phrase. Healing begins within, a testament to the courage it takes to confront our past and forge a new future. And if this story touched something profound in you, a simple light becomes a small beacon, guiding others toward these transformative tales of human connection. Now, as the applause fades and the stage lights dim, join me in discovering another story of shattered expectations and extraordinary grace in our next video, when most powerful acts of love often begin in the most broken places.